The sound of Claire's laughter was unmistakable, even through the tinny speaker of my phone. I'd heard it 1,000 times, at dinner parties, during movies, in bed as I whispered promises of our future. But I'd never heard it like this. Cruel, dismissive, aimed directly at me. He's so obsessed with me, it's pathetic. After the honeymoon, I'm moving in with Matt anyway. At least he knows what to do in bed. I sat alone in our apartment, the night before our wedding, listening to the voice of the woman I thought I knew. The words hit like physical blows, each one precise and devastating. 12 years together, 4 of them engaged, and this was how it ended, with me hunched over my phone at 2 a.m., listening to the woman I loved mocking me to her lover. I didn't smash anything. I didn't cry. I simply listened to all 3 recordings twice, saved them to multiple devices, and began to think. My name is Ethan Cross. Until yesterday, I was just another software engineer with a stable job at a respectable firm, a mortgage on a downtown condo, and a fiancé I would have died for. Claire and I met during our 2nd year of college. She was studying marketing. I was buried in computer science. We were opposites in many ways. She was outgoing and sociable, while I preferred smaller gatherings and deeper conversations. But somehow, we balanced each other. I admired her ability to light up a room, and she claimed to appreciate my steadiness, my reliability. "You're my rock," she used to say, curling against me on the couch. "Everyone else is so unpredictable, but you're always there." I took pride in that, in being dependable, in building something lasting. We moved in together after graduation, found jobs in the same city, and settled into a comfortable routine. I advanced quickly at my company, eventually leading a team developing security software. Claire bounced between marketing firms, always chasing something bigger and better. 4 years ago, I proposed. It wasn't flashy. Just the 2 of us on a weekend trip to the mountains, the ring presented over breakfast on our cabin's porch. Claire cried, said yes, and immediately began planning the perfect wedding. "It has to be special," she insisted. "I've waited my whole life for this." So we waited, saving money, letting her plan every detail. The venue, a historic chapel downtown, the flowers, white roses and blue hydrangeas, the guest list, over 200 people, the budget, staggering but manageable with both our salaries and her parents' generous contribution. Her parents adored me, especially her father, Richard, who often joked about finally having a son who understood investments. My family was smaller, just my parents and my younger sister, Megan, who had always been protective of me, sometimes suspiciously wary of Claire. "She's a little too perfect," Megan would say. "Nobody's that put together all the time." I dismissed her concerns. Claire was just ambitious, image-conscious. It wasn't a crime to want the best. 6 months ago, Claire started working with a personal trainer. Wedding prep, she called it, though her figure had always been enviable. Matt was his name, a former college athlete turned fitness guru at the expensive gym her father paid for. Claire began spending more time there, coming home later, glowing with endorphins and new energy. I was happy for her, proud even of her dedication. "You don't mind that I'm spending so much time at the gym, do you?" she asked once, almost hopefully. "Of course not. I want you to be happy." She smiled, but something in her eyes flickered. Disappointment? "You always say that?" 2 weeks before the wedding, she grew distant, checking her phone more often, stepping outside to take calls. I noticed but didn't pry. Wedding stress, I thought. Last-minute jitters. Nothing to worry about. 1 week before the wedding, I caught her in a lie. She said she was having dinner with her bridesmaids, but Megan spotted her at a restaurant with a man. When confronted, Claire dismissed it as a quick meeting with the wedding DJ. I believed her, because that's what I always did. I believed in us, in what we'd built, until the email arrived, the night before our wedding. The sender's address was a string of random numbers and letters, no subject line, 3 audio attachments, labeled simply 1, 2, and 3. I almost deleted it as spam. Thank God I didn't. Recording 1 was Claire and a man, Matt, I quickly realized, laughing about how I'd never suspected anything. 4 months and he hasn't noticed a thing, Matt said, his voice smooth and confident. That's Ethan for you. The man notices code errors nobody else can see, but he's blind to everything else. Claire's voice, intimate in a way it hadn't been with me for months. Recording 2 was more explicit. Claire describing our sex life in humiliating detail, comparing me unfavorably to Matt, both of them laughing at my vanilla preferences. He actually thinks I enjoy it, she said, and Matt's laughter joined hers. God, it's like he read a manual on how to be boring in bed. Recording 3 was the one that changed everything, Claire outlining their plan. After the wedding, we'll go on the honeymoon. 2 weeks in Bali on Daddy's dime. I'll get some great Instagram content, maybe a few more wedding gifts to cash in, then I'll tell him I need space. Her voice was so casual, as if discussing a business transaction. The prenup only kicks in after 6 months of marriage, so I'll file for divorce before then. He'll be crushed, but he won't fight it. He never fights anything. A few tears, some "where did we go wrong" conversations, and he'll let me walk away clean. And then? Matt asked. And then I move in with you, of course. Daddy will be upset, but he'll get over it. He always does. I listened to the recordings 3 times, trying to find some other explanation. Maybe it was a joke, a prank, a misunderstanding. But there was no mistaking Claire's voice, her laugh, the casual cruelty of her words. I couldn't sleep. I paced our apartment, looking at the framed photos of us, Claire and me in Paris, at her cousin's wedding, on the beach last summer. In every picture, I had my arm around her, looking at her like she was everything. And in every picture, if I looked closely now, I could see something in her eyes. A distance, a calculation, an absence. At 5 a.m., I called Megan. I need your help, I said, my voice steady. And I need you to not ask questions yet. My sister, bless her, didn't hesitate. Tell me what you need. I stood at the altar, wearing the custom tuxedo Claire had insisted on. The chapel was filled with flowers, candles, and guests. Colleagues, college friends, family members, all smiling expectantly. The string quartet played softly. Everything was perfect, exactly as Claire had planned. I felt strangely calm. The shock had worn off, leaving behind a cold, clear purpose. The music changed. The doors at the back of the chapel opened. Claire appeared on her father's arm, radiant in a designer gown that had cost more than my first car. She was smiling, her eyes fixed on me, playing her part flawlessly. I wondered how many times she'd practiced that smile in the mirror. How many times she'd rehearsed every aspect of this performance. As she took her first steps down the aisle, I saw my sister move. Megan, dressed in the pale blue bridesmaid dress Claire had chosen, stepped directly into Claire's path. The music faltered. The guests murmured. "Play it," Megan said clearly, her voice carrying through the chapel. "Now." She dropped a USB drive at my feet. Claire's smile slipped, confusion replacing it. "Ethan? What's going on?" Her voice trembled, just the right amount of vulnerability. She was good. She'd always been good. Without a word, I nodded to the AV technician we'd hired to handle the wedding slideshow. He'd been briefed, paid extra, and sworn to silence. The chapel's speakers crackled. Then Claire's voice filled the sacred space. "He's so obsessed with me, it's pathetic. After the honeymoon, I'm moving in with Matt anyway. At least he knows what to do in bed." The silence that followed was absolute. Then came the gasps, the whispers, the shocked faces turning to stare at Claire, who stood frozen in the aisle, her father's hand still on her arm. I watched her face cycle through emotions, shock, confusion, fear, and finally, rage. Her eyes darted around the chapel, looking for an escape, a way to explain this away. but there was none. Her father had gone pale. "Claire?" he asked, his voice breaking. "What is this?" Claire tried to recover. It's not what you think, Daddy. I would never—" The recording continued, merciless in its clarity. "After the wedding, we'll go on the honeymoon. 2 weeks in Bali on Daddy's dime. I'll get some great Instagram content, maybe a few more wedding gifts to cash in, then I'll tell him I need space." I watched her father's expression harden as he heard his daughter mock his generosity, watched her mother cover her mouth in horror, watched her friends exchange glances, already distancing themselves from the scandal. When the recording ended, I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I simply took the platinum ring from my pocket, the one that matched the engagement ring she wore, and placed it on the altar. Claire broke free from her father's grip and rushed toward me. "Ethan, please, I can explain." "Enjoy your new life," I whispered as she reached for me, her eyes wide with panic. Then I turned and walked down the aisle, past the stunned guests, through the chapel doors, and into the bright afternoon. For the first time in years, I felt free. I didn't stop at the wedding. That was just the opening move. After walking out of the chapel, I drove to a hotel I'd booked the night before. I checked in, ordered room service, and opened my laptop. The pieces were already in motion. I just needed to execute the rest of the plan. First, I created a new email account using Matt's name and details, information I'd gathered from Claire's phone while she slept. It wasn't technically legal, but neither was what they had planned to do to me. From this account, I composed emails to several people: Matt's boss at the gym, his ex-girlfriend, who had remained friends with Megan, and 3 of his current clients. Each email contained carefully selected quotes from the recordings, along with contextual messages that made it appear Matt was bragging about his conquest. To his boss: "Just wanted to let you know I've been using the private training rooms after hours for some extracurricular activities with a client. She's engaged, but that makes it more fun, right? Looking forward to my promotion." To his ex: "Remember how you said I was afraid of commitment? Well, you were right. Just broke up another engagement. The poor bastard doesn't even know yet, but his fiancée is moving in with me after their honeymoon. She's loaded too. Bonus." To his clients: "Thanks for the referral to Claire. She started as a client, but now she's leaving her fiancé for me. Don't worry, though. I'll still be professional with you during our sessions. Mostly." I scheduled these to send 2 days after the wedding, when Claire would inevitably reach out to Matt for comfort. Next, I prepared a detailed dossier of evidence: the recordings, text messages I'd recovered, bank statements showing unexplained expenses, and hotel receipts Claire had carelessly left in her car. I sent this package to her parents' lawyer with a note explaining that while I had no interest in pursuing legal action against Claire for emotional damages, I wanted them to understand exactly who their daughter was. Finally, I contacted a friend who worked at a legal firm specializing in defamation cases. Over the past month, Claire had been telling friends and family that I was controlling and emotionally abusive, setting the stage for her exit strategy, creating sympathy for her inevitable betrayal. I had witnesses, text messages, and those damning recordings as evidence to the contrary. With everything in place, I ordered another scotch, turned off my phone, and finally allowed myself to sleep. The aftermath was swift and devastating. By the next morning, the hashtag #WeddingFail was trending locally, with guests sharing whispers of what had happened. Claire's social media, usually meticulously curated, went silent. My phone was flooded with messages of support and sympathy, which I ignored. This wasn't about garnering pity. It was about justice. 2 days later, as planned, Matt received the spoofed emails I'd sent in his name. Within hours, his professional life imploded. His boss called him in for a meeting about inappropriate conduct. His clients began canceling sessions. His ex-girlfriend posted vague but damning comments about once a cheater, always a cheater, that were quickly connected to the wedding scandal. When Claire inevitably reached out to him for comfort and shelter, Matt panicked. He assumed she had sent the emails to sabotage him, creating a pretext to deny their relationship. Their argument was spectacular, according to Megan's sources, a public shouting match outside the gym that ended with Matt blocking Claire's number and social media accounts, telling her he wanted nothing to do with her or her psycho games. Meanwhile, the package arrived at her parents' lawyer's office. Richard Walker was an old-school businessman with an uncompromising sense of honor. The evidence I provided, especially the recordings of Claire mocking her father's generosity while planning to exploit it, cut deeper than any wedding humiliation. 3 days after what should have been our wedding day, Claire was summoned to her parents' home. The meeting was brief. Her father, who had indulged her every whim since childhood, informed her that her access to family funds was suspended. The credit cards he paid for were canceled. The apartment he subsidized would no longer be covered. The position he'd secured for her at his friend's marketing firm was in jeopardy. "You've made your choices," he told her, according to the family housekeeper, who had always liked me and was happy to share details. "Now you can live with them." Claire's mother, softer but no less wounded, added a final blow. "How could you speak about your father that way, after everything we've done for you?" With her backup plan in ruins, Claire became desperate. She called me repeatedly, left tearful voicemails begging for a conversation. "It was a mistake," she pleaded. "A moment of weakness. It didn't mean anything." I let the calls go to voicemail. Each message was saved, documented, and added to the growing file my lawyer was building. A week later, Claire began telling a new story to anyone who would listen. "I was controlling," she claimed, "emotionally manipulative. The recordings were taken out of context or digitally altered. She had been trying to escape an unhealthy relationship, and Matt was just a friend helping her. It might have worked, if not for the overwhelming evidence to the contrary. And the fact that Matt, trying to salvage his own reputation, had publicly denied her claims, stating clearly that they had indeed been having an affair. 10 days after the wedding that wasn't, my lawyer filed the defamation suit. The damages sought were substantial, not just financial compensation, but a public retraction of her statements about me, issued through the same channels she had used to spread them. Claire's attempt to hire a lawyer of her own was complicated by her new financial situation. With her father refusing to help and her own savings insufficient for the kind of legal representation she needed, she was forced to accept a settlement. The terms were simple: a public apology, acknowledgement of the truth, a modest financial payment, and a legally binding agreement to cease all communication with me and my family. 2 weeks after I should have been on a honeymoon in Bali, I watched Claire deliver a stiff, formal statement to a small gathering of local press. Her face was drawn, her designer clothes replaced by something off the rack, her usual confidence shattered. "The statements I made regarding Ethan Cross were false," she read from a prepared statement. "Our relationship ended due to my infidelity, not because of any wrongdoing on his part. I apologize for any damage my false allegations may have caused. It wasn't justice, exactly, but it was enough." 6 months later, I sat in a quiet cafe downtown, watching rain streak the windows. The coffee was good, the atmosphere peaceful. Across from me sat Julia, the paralegal who had helped with my case against Claire. "You look better," she observed, stirring honey into her tea. "Less devastated?" I suggested with a wry smile. I was going to say haunted, but sure, that works too. We'd been meeting like this weekly, initially to discuss the case, then continuing even after it was settled. Julia was smart, perceptive, and refreshingly direct, qualities I had once thought Claire possessed, but now recognized as performances rather than truths. "Heard anything about her lately?" Julia asked, not out of malice but simple curiosity. I shook my head. "Not directly. The agreement works both ways. She stays out of my life, I stay out of hers." "But?" I sighed. "But yes, I hear things. She's working at a small marketing firm in the suburbs. Entry-level position, no connection to her father. Apparently she's living with a roommate trying to rebuild her savings. And Matt? Left town. The gym chain transferred him to another state after the scandal died down. From what I understand, they don't speak anymore. Julia nodded, satisfied. Good. They deserved each other, but not in a good way. We talked about other things. A new project at work, a book she'd recommended, plans for the weekend, normal, everyday topics that had nothing to do with betrayal or revenge. As I walked Julia to her car later, she paused before getting in. You know what I've been wondering? Who sent you those recordings? You never did find out, did you? I shook my head. Number anonymous email, untraceable account. Could have been anyone. Hotel staff who overheard them, someone at the gym, even another woman Matt was seeing. I stopped trying to figure it out. Well, whoever it was did you a favor. The biggest one of my life, I agreed. After saying goodbye to Julia, I walked through the rain to my own car. My phone buzzed with a text. Megan, checking in as she still did regularly, making sure I was okay. I sent back a quick reassurance and a promise to call later. As I drove home, I passed the chapel where I was supposed to have been married. The sight no longer caused a pang of grief or anger. It was just a building now, beautiful but meaningless to me personally. I thought about Claire occasionally, not with longing or hatred, but with a kind of detached curiosity. Had she learned anything from the experience? Would she be kinder to the next man in her life? Or would she simply be more careful, hide her true nature more effectively? It didn't really matter. She was part of my past now, a painful lesson learned at great cost. My new apartment was smaller than the condo Claire and I had shared, but it was mine alone. No designer furniture, no carefully curated decor, just comfortable, functional pieces that suited my taste. Books on the shelves I actually read, art on the walls I genuinely enjoyed. That night, as rain tapped against the windows, I opened my laptop and began working on a personal project, a security app I'd been developing in my spare time. The code flowed easily, my mind clear and focused. My phone buzzed again. Julia this time. Dinner tomorrow? My treat. I smiled and typed back, only if you let me pay. I insist. Her response came quickly. Fine, but I picked the place. No arguments. I set the phone down, still smiling. 6 months ago, I had thought my life was ending. Now I understood it was just beginning. Claire had once called me her rock. She meant it as a compliment wrapped in an insult. Stable but dull, reliable but unexciting. She never understood that rocks also endure when storms wash everything else away. They remain when the tide retreats and the waters calm. I survived Claire's betrayal not because I was cold or unfeeling, but because I refused to be defined by someone else's cruelty. I had rebuilt my life on my terms, without compromising who I was, and that, more than any revenge, was the true victory. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.